Hey, everybody. This is Mother Teresa. How's everybody doing on tonight? Listen, you all, I just wanted to jump on here really quickly and just kind of share a little bit of information with you all. You all know that I am doing this 30-day challenge, this YouTube challenge. I am really trying to build my channel and build my channel by getting more subscribers, getting those watch hours in, those 4,000 watch hours that it just seems like it's never ending. But guess what? We can do it. Everybody who is taking this challenge, you all are doing an amazing job. I have to say this because I think the more that we can encourage one another to stay on this track, and let's just get in here and just be here for the long haul. You know, as I think about, my presence on YouTube, it is very different because, and I say very different because one of the things that I am definitely used to as a mental health professional is doing a lot of talking, but also doing a lot of listening. And the thing about YouTube is that I have to remind myself that the listening part is on the other end when you all share your comments. And I love getting your comments because it lets me know that I'm either on the right track or I am veering off to something that I need to kind of get myself back in the middle of. But let me just tell you all, one of the things, and I have to always say too, being a part of the, 60 plus community, we all have our life experiences. And I shared with you all, if you are listening to me the other day, I talked to you all a little bit about my being a teenage mom and all of the things that go along with that. But, one of the things that I'm just going to touch on a little bit today, and this is not necessarily what I was planning on talking about, but I'm going to just go ahead and jump right into it because I think that it can definitely help somebody. One of the things that I do realize is that it is our experiences that make us unique, especially the older crowd. We have definitely a lot of life experiences that hopefully it would be a help to some of the younger generation. And one of the young ladies that I had the pleasure of meeting while doing my 30-day YouTube challenge, she was talking about the older women, being able to give advice and just holding space for the younger women. And I told her that's exactly what God had asked me to do or told me to do several years ago when I was kind of going through some things. And the Lord just laid it on my heart, Titus 2. And for those of you all that are familiar with Titus 2, you probably already know where I'm going. But for those of you all that are not familiar with Titus 2, basically Titus 2 tells the aged women, which I am now, the aged women to teach the younger women. And we are to teach the younger women how to be discreet, how to be chaste, how to be keepers of our own homes, how to love our husbands, how to love and take care of our children. And in doing so, and it goes on a little bit further, but those are the main things that I wanted to share, is that the young women, as well as the older women, we've got to learn how to do those things, how to love our husbands. For those of you all who also follow me, or if you're new to my channel, first of all, welcome. I've been married to my husband for 40 years, and I'm going to keep saying that because I want you all to understand that it is possible. It is possible to meet someone at the age of 14. However, my husband and I met each other long before we were 14. We grew up in the community together, but we started dating when we were 14 years old. and we were married by the time we were 20. We had our first child together while we were in high school, and we've been married over 40 years. Now, I can't say that all 40 of those years um, have been wonderful years, because we've had some bad times, but it's nothing that we could not work out, and it wasn't so bad that we left, each other. You know, we've had our ups and downs just like any married couple. But I do believe that God put us together and he intends for us to remain together. But let me just go back and let me just say the reason why I share that is because sometimes people find it hard to believe that we are still married or that we've been married this long. And I won't say that it is something that is impossible. You think about your grandparents, or I think about my grandparents and my husband's grandparents. They were more married for 60 years, or longer. So it is not impossible. But so I'm going to keep talking about that. What I wanted to share with you all a little bit on my conversation, kind of going back to my conversation from yesterday or the day before, is that, being a single mom, being a teenage mom, it can be very hard. It can be very difficult. But with the right family support, it is definitely doable. And I wanted to add another little um, angle to my story that I was sharing. And I feel like this is probably going to be just a lot of my stories. Thank God I have lots of stories to tell. But the other part of that is that my husband and I, we were both raised in the projects, and we were neighbors. We lived in the same apartment complex, and he lived at one end and I lived at the other end in apartment or building 400. I lived in 405 and he lived in 408. And so both of our parents were single moms at the time. Both of our parents did, remarry. And so, in both of our parents, our mothers did move away from the projects, but we left the projects before our parents did. When we got married at the age of 20, we left the projects. And let me just tell you, the projects that we grew up in, which was Oak Hill Plaza, it was not the same projects that it is today. And let me just tell you, I do go back and I visit by driving through sometimes when I'm in my hometown. I love to drive by and just to see where I grew up, and also to share and take my children, my grandchildren, and show them where me and Big Daddy grew up. And of course, they always have lots of questions about where we grew up. And I try to tell them, that it was more of a community. It was more of a community that some of my best friends, my childhood friends, they lived there along with me, and my siblings, my brothers and my sisters, some of their friends that they still have today. That's where we met them, in Oak Hill Plaza. And again, my mom was very strict, so it wasn't, for the girls, we didn't get out of the house a whole lot. My brothers did, but my mom pretty much kind of kept us, she kept it, I would say, she kept us pretty much not confined, but she wanted to make sure that we were close by home. Let's just put it like that. So I didn't have a lot of time to just kind of roam the streets. And I wasn't that type of a person that, unless it was something that was happening, because let me just tell you, and I kid and I share about, people said that I was nosy. I tell them it pays me well now, but I've always been that curious child that if something was happening, I wanted to know what was happening. And so if something was going on in the community, I was going to try to find out what was happening. So I could then come back and I could share with my mom and my elderly neighbor, Miss Mabel, about the things that was happening in our community. But growing up in the projects, was a thing back in the day that I did not know. Well, I don't know if it carried as much stigma, and maybe it did, and I just didn't realize it. But one thing that I will say is that growing up in the projects, it probably shaped me and some of my thoughts and some of the things of the way that I am. I know for a fact it did, but I won't say it was in a negative way because I cannot think of the things that I possibly missed out on because I lived in the projects. I did know that there was a difference. I'm not going to be so, I wasn't so naive to not know that there was a difference between where I lived and maybe where some of my friends lived. But my mom made sure that we had the necessary things that we needed. She always made sure that we had our things, our needs, and occasionally some of the things that we wanted. So I don't feel like I necessarily missed out on anything. All of my neighbors, the people that lived in my community, they were a reflection of me. So they looked like me. They pretty much dressed like I did. So there was nothing to compare it with or to say that person, was different. We were all about the same. And again, my mom always worked until, there were a couple of things, instances where she would get ill and she couldn't work. But my mom always worked. So there was always, I always saw my mom getting up and going to work. And even sometimes getting up and going to work in jobs that were not necessarily meant for a lady to be working, but because my mom, wanted to make sure that she could take care of her family, she got up and she went to work and she did very hard physical work. And, that's one of the things that I do recall that I always thought in the back of my mind is that I see my mom working so hard and I always had a lot of respect for what she was doing. But I also knew that that was not the type of work that I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to use my brain versus, my body. And because I always knew that there was better. I always knew that I wanted to make my mom proud. So I knew I had to excel. And I can just tell you, education definitely was the key for me. And I think for so many that, wanted or desired to have a better life. And so that's, that's what worked for me. And I'm going to give you little bits of my story, a little bit at a time, because I want to continue on this journey of just giving you a little bit of my story, a little bit each day, because I feel like that there are so many things that God has allowed me to experience, and He's allowed me to experience these things so then I can be a blessing or a help to other people. One of the things that I will end with is that one of my favorite quotes is that no matter what a person has been, they can choose to be different. And so even if you started as a teenage mom growing up in the projects, that doesn't have to be your end of your story. The odds were stacked against me. Again, being a teenage mom, being African American, living in the projects, coming from a single parent home, my father dying when I was 9 years old. All of those statistics had could have made it to where I would become the statistic. But I thank God that God said, no, I'm going to allow all of those things to be, that could be a stumbling block, actually to become your stepping blocks. And so I'm grateful for that. I am so very grateful that God allowed, or he saw fit. He showed me so much favor, and he continues to show me favor, and that he has allowed me to live what I call a grand life. And so I know that I'm not anybody special, that it cannot happen for you. And so I just want to encourage everybody that no matter where you are, no matter what circumstances that you may be in right now, uh, that's not how your story has to end, because you can choose to be different. You can choose to be better. And so, and I'm just going to encourage you to choose differently. All right. All right. This is Mother Teresa, and I will say, I will see you all on the next video. You all enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your night. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.